Chris looked at a red sports car parked on the street. Then he asked the rich man 2 questions.
What do you do and how do you do it?
I'm a stockbroker.
Stockbroker. Oh, I had to go to college to be a stockbroker, huh?
You don't have to. Had to be good with numbers and good with people. That's it.
Hey, you take care.
Just like that, the gears of destiny started turning, and one of the most inspiring true stories ever told began. That night, Chris rushed home and told his wife Linda he wanted to become a stockbroker, but Linda only laughed coldly.
Not an astronaut?
Her words hit him like needles, and the worst part was, Chris had no way to argue back, because their life really did look like failure. They were 2 months behind on rent. Linda worked 2 jobs just to keep them alive. Their son Christopher went to the cheapest daycare they could find, and this had been their life for years, all because of one decision Chris made long ago. He spent all their savings on bone density scanners, thinking they would make him rich, but the machines barely sold. His car was covered in unpaid parking tickets, until one day, the police finally towed it away. Chris stood there on the street, completely powerless, but he still refused to stay stuck. So he decided to bet on himself. To impress the people at the brokerage firm, Chris left one scanner with a street performer and went inside to fill out an application. But when he looked back, the man was already running away with the machine. Chris chased him all the way to the subway, but still lost him. Just like that, a whole month of living money was gone. Later, Chris learned the company was hiring 20 interns, but only one would get the real job. Still, he walked into the firm and personally handed his application to Jay Twistle. He just wanted to be remembered.
I really love the opportunity to sit and discuss what may seem like weaknesses on my application.
Okay, well, we'll start with this, Chris, and we'll call you if we want to sit down.
Yeah.
Through the glass, Chris watched the brokers moving fast inside. They looked like they lived in another world, and Chris was standing outside like he didn't belong. But on his way to sell another scanner, he suddenly saw the machine he had lost. This time, he chased it down without hesitation. He followed it onto a bus and finally got it back. But when Linda saw him come home again with those heavy machines, the last bit of light in her eyes disappeared. It was like she could already see the next 30 years. Same struggle, same bills, same broken dream. Chris was still excitedly telling her about his day, but Linda only said,
What?
Whatever.
What the hell you got an attitude about? Whatever what?
Every day he's got some damn story.
Wait a second. Listen, Linda. Relax. We're gonna come out of this. Everything is gonna be fine, all right?
You said that before. When I got pregnant, it'll be fine.
So you don't trust me now?
Whatever. I don't care.
That night, Chris sat alone watching TV. A math professor was trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. Back then, the cube was everywhere. And maybe because Chris had a natural gift with numbers, the first time he touched it, he almost figured it out. He had no idea that this little cube was about to change his life. 1 month later, Chris saw Jay Twistle outside the firm. Jay was rushing to catch a cab. Chris immediately said he was going the same way. Inside the cab, Chris kept trying to pitch himself, but Jay was focused on the Rubik's Cube. He said nobody could solve all 6 sides.
I can do it.
No, you can't. No one can. It's bullshit.
No, I'm pretty sure I can do it.
No, you can't.
Let me see it. Give it here.
Then he started explaining the math behind it. Chris picked it up, one side, then another. Minute by minute, Jay's attention shifted. Even when the cab reached his destination, he didn't get out, because Chris was still solving the cube. And when the cube finally clicked into place, Jay stared at him in disbelief. Chris had done it. He made Jay remember him. But the next second, Chris realized Jay had not paid the cab fare. He looked at the meter, pretended to stay calm, then told the driver to keep going. At a red light, Chris opened the door and ran. Halfway down the street, he remembered his scanner was still in the cab, so he ran back, grabbed the machine, and sprinted straight into the subway. At the last second, he squeezed into the train, but the scanner got stuck outside the doors. The train started moving. Chris had no choice but to let go. Again, he lost a full month of survival money. That night, the rain came down hard. Because of the mess, Chris was late picking up his son. He had to call Linda for help, and that phone call became the final straw.
Hey. Yeah, sorry I couldn't make it home on time.
Chris, I missed my shift.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. Look, I'm on my way right now. Are you all right with Christopher?
I'm leaving. Chris, I'm leaving.
What?
Did you hear what I said?
I have my things together, and I'm taking our son, and we're going to leave now.
I'm going to put the phone down.
Linda,
I'm going
wait
to
a
leave.
minute. Hold
We
on.
are leaving.
When Chris finally got home, the apartment was empty. Linda was gone. For For the first time, Chris completely broke inside. He could not understand it. Everything he did was supposed to chase happiness. So why did happiness keep moving farther away? To fight for his son, Chris waited for Linda outside her workplace. Just like always, they argued again. Every word was like a knife, aimed straight at the weakest part of each other.
Christopher's staying with me.
You're the one that dragged us down to this. You hear me?
You are so weak.
No, I am not happy anymore. I'm just not happy.
Then go get happy, Linda. Just go get happy. But Christopher's living with me. Did you hear what I said? Christopher's living with me.
In the end, Chris won custody of Christopher. But once Linda left, the problem she had been holding up came crashing down. The rent was now 3 months late. If Chris could not pay by tomorrow morning, he and his son would be kicked out. So Chris made a deal with the landlord. He would paint the walls for free if the landlord gave him a few more days. But what Chris didn't know was, because of all his unpaid tickets, the police came straight to the apartment. He could not pay the fines, so he had to spend the night in jail until 9:30 the next morning. This time, Chris truly panicked. His son had nowhere to go. And worse, his interview at the brokerage firm was at 10 a.m. He had no choice but to call Linda again and beg her to watch Christopher for one more night. The next morning, the second Chris was released, he sprinted out of the police station. He ran like his entire life depended on it, because it did. When he opened the conference room door, every interviewer froze. Chris was covered in paint. His hair was a mess. His clothes were filthy. He did not look like a man interviewing for a finance job. He looked like he had just run away from a construction site. But Chris did not panic. He used humor to break the tension, then honestly explained why he looked that way. And because Jay Twistle remembered him, Chris was not rejected on the spot. Then the lead interviewer asked him one final question. It sounded like a trap, but really it was a test.
What would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
And with honesty, quick thinking, and pure confidence, Chris earned the internship. But he did not walk out smiling. Because this internship was almost cruel. 6 months of training, no salary, 20 interns, only one job. For people with money, this was career competition. For Chris, this was survival. This was hope, and it was hope he was gambling his son's life on. Still, Chris chose to take the bet. For the next 6 months, his only source of income was selling the last scanners he still had. To survive, Chris and his son moved into a cheap motel. One day, trying to make Christopher happy, Chris took him to play basketball. His son excitedly said he wanted to play in the NBA one day. Without thinking, Chris shut the dream down.
You'll probably be about as good as us. That's kind of the way it works, you know, and I was below average, you know, so you'll probably ultimately rank.
Christopher said nothing. He just tossed the ball aside. And in that moment, Chris realized he had just done what the world had been doing to him for years, telling someone they were not enough. So he stopped. He looked at his son and told him,
Hey, don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right?
Alright.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
From that day on, Chris became a one-man machine. At the office, he squeezed every second out of the day. Other interns took breaks. He didn't. They drank water. He didn't. They went to the bathroom. He avoided it, because every minute he saved was another call he could make. After work, other people went home. Chris ran to pick up his son, then kept trying to sell scanners. The internship got harder. The money got worse. So Chris stopped playing by the normal rules. Instead of calling people in order from the list, he started calling the decision makers directly. And finally, his persistence paid off. He got a chance to meet a major client, but the client told him he had to be there in in 20 minutes. Right then, his boss asked him to park his car. Chris could not refuse. Interns don't get to offend anyone. By the time Chris arrived, the client was gone. Another chance that could have changed everything disappeared. Most people would have broken there. Chris didn't. He remembered the client had mentioned going to a football game that weekend, so Chris took his son and showed up. It was risky, too aggressive, and the client would hate him. Too careful, and he would stay invisible forever. Chris found the balance. He apologized sincerely for missing the meeting, then gave the client a reason to keep talking. Real networking is not begging. It is creating a moment where someone wants to know more. The client invited Chris and Christopher to watch the game. Inside the luxury box, Chris saw another world. People laughing, relaxed, comfortable, rich. But Chris did not shrink. And he did not act desperate. He talked, he listened, he introduced himself to more people. That client did not become his client right away, but that day opened a bigger door. 4 months passed. Chris finally sold a few scanners. Life looked like it might be turning around. Then fate hit him again. The IRS took everything from his bank account because of unpaid taxes. All the money he had earned from selling scanners was gone overnight. Just like that, Chris had nothing again. At his lowest point, he brought his son back to the motel and found their belongings thrown outside. They were homeless. That night, Chris took Christopher to the subway station. His son was too young to understand what was happening, so Chris made up a story. He told him the scanner was a time machine. One push of the button and they had traveled back to the dinosaur age.
Oh my goodness. Well, open.
Oh. What is it?
Dinosaurs.
Where?
You don't see all these dinosaurs? Look around. Look at all these dinosaurs. Don't step in the fire.
Now they needed to find a cave to hide in. That cave was a public bathroom inside the subway station. Chris locked the door, laid paper towels on the floor, then held his son in his arms and let him sleep. Outside, people kept knocking angrily on the door. Chris covered his son's ears and pressed his foot hard against the door, and that was when this man finally cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears falling one by one. That is the scene that cuts the deepest. Because sometimes a man does not collapse because he is not hurting. He does not cry out because he is not scared. He holds it in because if he breaks, the child in his arms has nothing left, so he has to fall apart quietly while still being the wall. After that, Chris and his son started lining up at a church shelter every night just to fight for a bed. By day, he walked into the firm like everything was fine. By night, he carried his child through the corners of the city, looking for somewhere safe to sleep. That double life nearly drained him dry. But even then, he kept studying, kept memorizing, kept working, kept repairing the last scanner. And when the machine finally powered on again, that light did not just fill the room. It reached into the part of him that was almost gone. Eventually, Chris sold the last scanner. Finally, he and his son could sleep in a real hotel room again. Then the 6-month internship reached its final day. By then, Chris had been rejected, mocked, abandoned, evicted, ignored, and pushed to the edge. He had slept in a bathroom, lined up at shelters, sold blood, chased machines, fought for beds, made calls by day, held his son by night, looked professional in the office, then carried poverty on his back after sunset. Then his boss called him into the meeting room. Chris sat there trying to stay calm because he knew this moment was not just about a job. It was about the rest of his son's life. Then they told him he got the position.
Wear a shirt today, being the last day and all.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. But, wear one tomorrow, though, okay? Because tomorrow's going to be your first day. If you'd like to work here as a broker. Would you like that, Chris?
Yes, sir.
So, welcome. Was it as easy as it looked?
No, sir. No, sir, it wasn't.
Chris stood up, shook their hands, and walked out with tears in his eyes, but he held them back until he reached the crowded street. Then slowly, he raised his hands and started clapping for himself. 6 months earlier, he had planted a seed inside total darkness. After pain, pressure, humiliation, and hunger, that seed finally broke through the ground. For the first time in a long time, Chris could stand tall. He could smile without fear. He rushed to the daycare and hugged his son tight, because from that moment on, he knew he would never let that boy suffer like that again. Years later, Chris Gardner built his own company, and happiness finally knocked on his door. But honestly, that is not the right way to say it, because happiness did not simply come looking for Chris. Chris spent years knocking on its door with bleeding hands. And maybe that is the real lesson. The most precious thing in life is not lucky success falling into your lap. It is the courage to keep running even when life has already thrown you to the bottom. Because once you survive it, you realize something. You were never waiting for happiness to find you. You were the one fighting your way toward it all along.